Good evening, I'm Mark Ivy. Welcome to the latest edition of Kernels from the Cornfield. No husk, no hulls, no shucks. News with a dash of commentary to spice up your daily fare for Monday, April 7th, 2014. With a great deal of caution, the world is hoping that pings picked up by a U.S. pinger dispatched from the Australian ship Ocean Shield may at last bring closure to the question of where Flight 370's final resting place may be. But now, over a month later, the answer to the question of what happened to and where's Flight 370 remains the same. We don't know. Now, some GLBT activists and their supporters displayed their own intolerance this past week in demanding that Mozilla Firefox CEO Brendan Eich step down or be fired for daring to have supported Prop 8 back in 2008. That California proposition enshrined a ban on same-gender equality into the state's constitution. Prop 8 was later declared unconstitutional. Now, some GLBT activists and their supporters crossed the line and were wrong in their demands on Ike for following his religious or moral beliefs, as protected by the U.S. Constitution. Freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of speech is still woven through the fabric of American life. Those who called for Ike's head showed their own intolerance and disdain for the very protections they seek for themselves. If you demand equality, if you demand tolerance, you must give equality. You must be tolerant. Intolerance breeds intolerance. On a similar vein, the Supreme Court today refused to hear an appeal from a photographer who refused to take pictures of a same-gender ceremony. The message from the Supremes was clear. If you hang out your shingle to do business with the public, you have to serve the public. Personally, with all the photographers and bakers out there, if someone refused to photograph John and I or to bake us a cake, I'd just go down the street to another shop. If those businesses start feeling it in the pocketbook, they may rethink their position. Not that they should stop believing what they believe, but understand that when a business serves the public, it serves the public. Unrest is ticking upward in eastern Ukraine today. One has to wonder how soon before Russian President Vladimir Putin decides it's his duty to send in the troops to protect those of Russian descent living on foreign soil. But don't be fooled. Putin has designs on rebuilding the old Soviet empire. Across the nation, people are mourning the passing of an iconic movie legend, Mickey Rooney. For over 8 decades, Rooney has seemed like a part of the family. During the dark days of the Great Depression, as the indomitable Andy Hardy, Rooney stole the hearts of Americans, giving them something to smile through though life all around them was filled with misery and tears. Rooney, a talent, a star, one of a kind. Rest in peace, Mickey Rooney. You will be missed. One of the Cornfield's own native sons announced last week that he's calling it quits after over 30 years coming into our living rooms each night. David Letterman said he is retiring when his current contract ends in 2015. Letterman, for nearly a quarter of a century on CBS and another several years on NBC, has hosted The Late Show. Though I've not always been a fan of his acerbic wit, I have enjoyed and laughed with his famous top 10 list. Letterman got his start as a weatherman for a local Indianapolis television station before heading to New York City. On a personal note, during my days as a journalist at the Linton Daily Citizen a lifetime ago, Letterman still subscribed to our local newspaper. Occasionally, one of our stories or events happening in the cornfield made their way into Letterman's monologue or one of his skits. You know, I couldn't believe my ears Sunday morning as I listened to former House Speaker and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi tell Candy Crowley of CNN's State of the Union that she placed the number of those who had signed up for and benefited from the Affordable Care Act at closer to 15 million instead of the 7 million lauded by the White House. Pelosi threw out a figure around 5 or 6 million who had rolled in Medicaid because of the ACA. Of course, with or without the ACA, those people were eligible for Medicaid. She also added in another 5 million or more of those 18 to 26-year-olds who had stayed on their parents' insurance in her number. Now that does mean about 5 million or so who did not buy private insurance out of that pool of healthy young Americans needed to offset the cost of the sick and older Americans who signed up for coverage. Where the numbers came from is anyone's guess. The White House can't give us a breakdown, yet Pelosi seems to know more than Health and Human Services. Now you can read my own take on the numbers at FromTheCornfield.com. ACA goal, hit or miss. Check out my take on the Supreme Court ruling on political contributions at FromTheCornfield.com or on CNN's iReport site. Look for Put the Blame Where It Belongs, Voter Apathy. Well, that's what caught my attention on this Monday, April 7, 2014. Tune in tomorrow for another episode of Kernels from the Cornfield. I'm Mark Ivy. Have a good evening.